Hey, what's going on, Set Apart Gardens family, man? Shalom, peace and blessings to everybody, man. I hope y'all are having a good day, good night, good afternoon, whatever time it is where you at, man. This topic or this series, I actually did a poll on the channel to see which would you rather, me talk about how I taught myself how to be a butcher, or just lessons that I learned, you know, as my time as a homesteader slash farmer. So lessons that I learned as a homesteader the first few years was the topic that you guys voted on the most. So that's what we're gonna be talking about today. We're gonna be going into lesson 1, right? And don't mind if I'm looking over here. I'm just looking at my computer that has my topics and bullet points, all right? All right, so lesson number 1, it's gonna be real simple, but it's don't rush the process, right? And you hear that all the time, and it may sound like a cliche, but I'm gonna just break it down, right? Because this is the thing, when it comes to especially homesteading, farming, gardening, you know, just anything that's outdoors, that's working with the land, working on the land, especially in this social media age, right? We can go on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube and we can see the already finished product, right? So you may be looking at somebody who's been doing it for years or decades, and all their stuff is together, their infrastructure's built, they have this nice huge flock of whatever they're raising, whether it's chickens, turkeys, goats, cows, sheeps, whatever. And you know, they have just everything is together, their garden is already together, they got tractors, you know, they got all the equipment, all the tools, and it's beautiful, you know what I mean? The fruit trees are luscious, fruit is, you know, is coming off the fruit tree their garden is producing, and we see the end result. And when we're first starting, that's all we're thinking about, not realizing that that comes later, right? Not realizing that, you know, whatever, you know, you expect this to produce, whatever you're raising, growing, you know, whatever the case may be, whether it's livestock, animals, or all of it, you have to get to the starting point first. And the starting point looks nothing like the end point, or, you know, when you finally arrive. So that's why I say you can't rush the process, because that's a temptation to do. You know what I'm saying? Is rush the process and go out and try to hurry up and get some stuff so, you know, you can feel like, okay, I'm there. You know what I mean? And that might come with putting yourself in debt. That might come with you getting ahead of yourself and not really understanding the ins and outs. So you end up backtracking, if you will, because you may take a lot of losses. You see what I'm saying? And versus if you take it one step at a time and don't rush the process, then you learn the ins and outs and all the intricacies and get all the experience along the way. So when you finally get to the point to where you envision, you're able to sustain it. You're able to steward over it well, because you went through the nitty and the gritty process of it. You went through the everyday process of it, the slow grind, the patience. You went through that, and now you're able to really, what's the word I'm looking for? You're able to really have that sense of fulfillment and truly enjoy it. You see what I'm saying? So, don't rush the process. And the first point I want to make as far as don't rush the process is that we always hear the saying that Rome wasn't built in a day, but neither will your homestead or your farm be built in a day. So Rome wasn't built in a day, neither will your farm or your homestead be built in a day. Now don't get me wrong, you know, for each situation, it'll look different for each person, right? So for instance, you may buy land that already has a lot of infrastructure. It might already be laid out. You see what I'm saying? And so there's not much you have to do except put your personal touches on it, right? And may change a few things or whatever the case may be. Or you might buy some raw land that you have to clear yourself, you have to build the infrastructure, you have to, you know, kind of map out where you want what to be at. You see what I'm saying? And you're starting from ground zero. And then, you know, that's not even entailing or including your personal experience with building, with farming, with, you know what I'm saying, just living on the land. So it's not gonna happen overnight. You see what I'm saying? I think a lot of times, especially in the age that we live in, we're expecting to already have a ready-made type of deal. You see what I'm saying? And farming or homesteading is just not one of those things that you can just get ready-made. You see what I'm saying? It's something that you're gonna have to work at, and something that you're gonna have to put a lot of sweat equity into. You see what I'm saying? To get it to the point that you really want it to be. And that may take a year, that may take 6 months, that may take a few years. It just depends on you. It depends on the variables that's in your life. So you might jump in it and be doing it full time, and it might not take you as long because you're doing it every day. Versus me and other people who still work full-time jobs, you can only do it nights, weekends, days you get off, and different things like that. So it's gonna take a little longer. And then you got, you know, depending on what your financial situation is as well. Some people get loans, some people already have some money set aside that they save for, they can do this. Some people are just doing it as they go, and they're just, you know, doing it little by little. You see what I'm saying? But the overall point is that no matter how you do it, it's still not gonna be built in a day. Because let's say even that you come in something that, or you buy land or whatever the case may be, and it's all cleared out, it's got fencing, it's got infrastructures built, shelters built for animals, you got chicken coops already on it, which is probably rare to find. But let's say you do, you know what I'm saying, inherit that or buy that. You still have to start from the beginning with the livestock, or with the seeds, or with the fruit trees and the things that you want to produce. You're still going to have to start from the beginning with that. And that's a process in itself, because you're, you know, most likely, I'm assuming, you know, most people, they're going to want to buy their chicks as babies, as baby chicks. So you still have to wait till they grow up before they start producing. If you want to start a flock, you know what I'm saying, you have that option to buy, you know, starter flocks, where, you know, some farmers, they'll sell you a starter flock, which is, you know, a couple of sheep or a couple of goats. You know, you get a male and a few females. You same thing with cattle, different things like that. But you're still gonna have to wait for them to produce, to reproduce. You see what I'm saying? So where you might buy a starter flock, or you might buy just a male and a female, or a male or two females, you have to wait for them to continue to multiply before you really start seeing the residuals from it. You see what I'm saying? And that will take years. It absolutely will take years, especially when you're dealing with animals, because animals only get pregnant, most of them, one time a year. You see what I'm saying? They give birth one time a year. I know the gestation period for sheep and goats is 5 months. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, there's gonna be, you know, just one point in the year where you're having lambs, or, you know, kids, goat kids, whatever the case may be. Same thing with cattle. So it's going to take years. Now, as the years go on, of course, you know, you might add a female here, add 2 females there, add another male, whatever the case may be, so you can kind of beef up your flock a little bit. But the overall point is that it's not going to be built in a day. You're not going to have a field full of, you know, livestock when you first getting on, you know, first getting into homesteading and farming. It's just not gonna happen. But you're gonna start small, and you're gonna steward over a few of them, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. And, you know, as they multiply, you'll be able to handle that, because you've been stewarding over the few. So now when the few is starting to multiply, you're already knowing a lot of the different things on how to take care of them. So it's not really overwhelming you. That's another thing. When you try to rush the process, you get overwhelmed. Let's just keep it real. You know, we've had those times before. You know, I've had those times before, right? Where I try to rush something and I end up biting off more than I can chew. You see what I'm saying? Don't let that be you with farming, because you have to realize you're dealing with lives here. That maybe not human lives, but animal lives, and they're precious as well. So you want to make sure you're stewarding over their lives well. So Rome wasn't built in a day, neither will your farm or homestead. So don't rush the process. All right, the second thing is that the building process is where the fulfillment comes from, right? So you ever, you know, see farmers or homesteaders or whatever the case may be, and they look just so fulfilled. You know what I mean? They're shooting a video, they sitting on their front porch drinking coffee, and they just looking out over their land, looking out over all the animals they have, the chickens, the turkeys, the sheep, the goats, the cows, the horses, the beautiful garden, the luscious fruit trees, all these different things. They're looking out over everything, and they feel that deep sense of fulfillment because they went through the building process. They went through the grind, if you will. You see what I'm saying? They didn't, they didn't just, you know, poof and all of this just appeared. They had to put in work. They had to put in long hours. They had to make sure that everything was fed and watered every day. They had to make sure that, okay, now we have to do it. We got to maintain it. We got to beautify it. We got to do this. We got to do that. You know, okay, we got to build this. There's going to be blood, sweat, and tears, really, literally, that comes with this. You see what I'm saying? It's going to be times where, you know, you out building something or you doing something and, you know, you cut your finger or you cut your arm or you cut your leg. That's blood. And then you sweating out there in the sun when you working, whether you just doing the chores, whether you building something, whether you handling the animals, feeding the animals, giving the animals medication or whatever the case may be. You out there in the sun laboring, so that sweat. And then you also have the tears where you just get frustrated sometimes because it's not coming quick enough, or you feel like you done everything that you possibly could, but it's still not good enough. You see what I'm saying? Or you just feel like you're stuck because you got this passion and you got this drive, but it's like life is really lifing at that point. You see what I'm saying? It's just like you can't catch a break. It's that frustration, man, you know, and that's a real thing. You see what I'm saying? Like, I know it's beautiful and there's beauty in it, and it's a lot of different, you know, aspects about just living off the land that's just so you know, so admirable, if that's a word, or really just, you know, so appeasing or appealing. So, you know, all those things are good, but at the same time, you have to realize that it does come at a cost. You see what I'm saying? Because, you know, you don't necessarily live in the suburbs and everything ain't close to you because you out in the country, or, you know, you got predators coming on your land, messing with your animals, and, you know, you might have harassment from people, you know what I'm saying, that don't want you owning that land. You know what I mean? So it's just like a lot of different things that can cause that frustration, to cause, you know, those tears or whatever the case may be. But when you go through the blood, sweat, and tears, when you go through the grit, through the grind, when you finally get on the other side of that and you get to a point to where you feel like you've arrived, but mainly like your land is just beautiful and everything is just how you envisioned it, the true fulfillment comes only when you go through that process. It doesn't come if you just walk into it all automatically done, everything is done. You don't really get that same sense of fulfillment because you didn't invest in it. Investment, you have to invest. You see what I'm saying? And the most important thing to invest is not the money, but the time and the effort. And when you invest, you see what I'm saying? The dividends are far deeper than just the monetary gains or just the things of the world, but the dividends are truly internal. The building process is where the fulfillment comes from. So the third thing, right? Is that the things that you want to produce for you have to be nurtured and cared for first before they can produce for you. So that goes for animals, that goes for plants, that goes for trees, that goes for anything that you want to produce something for you. You have to nurture it first before it can do anything for you, right? And that's why that even hits on the second point a little bit as far as that fulfillment, because when something is producing for you that you've taken care of for a long time before it ever produced something for you, that's a true sense of fulfillment. But that's also a selfless thing for you to do, is to take care of something that you know can't really provide anything back to you at that moment in time. You see what I'm saying? Whether it be a baby lamb or a baby goat or a baby chick, or, you know, a seed, a vegetable seed, or a fruit tree, you know, that's yay high. You see what I'm saying? That you just planting in the ground, or you just putting in a container, and you know, you feeding it fertilizer, and you making sure it's watered, and you making sure it's out there getting the adequate sunlight, and you just making sure you're pruning it, taking care of it. Years before it ever produces an orange or an apple or a pear, you've nourished it, you've nurtured it, you've cared for it. You see what I'm saying? And so that's something to understand as well. things aren't going to start producing immediately. You see what I'm saying? You want chickens to lay eggs for you? Okay, when you buy them as baby chicks, they don't lay eggs. You have to wait at least a few months before they reach maturity, a mature stage, before they actually start laying eggs for you. You see what I'm saying? And that goes for all animals. You see what I'm saying? Okay, you love to eat turkey, but when you buy them as babies, you can't eat them then, so you have to raise them, and those take a little longer than chickens to reach, you know, slaughter weight. So you're still gonna have to feed them every day, give them water every day, make sure they're safe, making sure they're taken care of, excuse me. And you're doing that all the while you're not receiving anything at that point in time. And that can be not as appealing to some people, because they want it already made. You see what I'm saying? But it doesn't come already made. So what you have to understand, excuse me, I'm sorry. But what you have to understand is that you're gonna have to nurture things long before they can do something for you, long before they can produce for you. All right, and so the last point I want to hit, or the last thing I want to hit, is that the increase only comes when there's great wisdom and stewardship over what you've been blessed with. So the increase, the yield, the harvest, it only comes after, or the abundant harvest that you may want, rather, because you can get harvests, that's no problem, but the actual abundant harvest will only come when you have been wise and stewarded over what you've been blessed with. You know, whether it's the land, the animals, the garden, you know what I'm saying? The true increase, that fulfilling increase, that fulfilling harvest is only gonna come once proper stewardship has been done, once you have handled things with wisdom, once you've learned a lot of lessons, bumped your head a few times, went through trial and error with things, and you kind of know the ins and outs, and now you're approaching things with wisdom. You're being a good steward. You're making sure that your animals are getting the best, your plants are getting the best, not even just the best food, but also just the best care and effort from their master, which is you. When you treat your animals with respect, matter of fact, when you treat everything with respect, when you approach everything with respect and with wisdom, there is nothing that it won't produce for you. You see what I'm saying? That's with anything in the world, not just with farming. Let's say you want to get into motorcycles. If you don't respect that bike is not going to respect you. You see what I'm saying? It is not going to be a benefit to you because you're not respecting it. If you want to own a weapon, if you don't respect that weapon and its capabilities, then that's just trouble waiting to happen. When you don't respect your animals, when you don't respect the seeds that you're putting in the ground, when you don't respect, you know, the trees that you put in the ground, when you don't respect just the land that you have, how could you expect it to produce for you and to give its best to you if you're not giving your best to it? So you have to give your best to you know, to whatever you want to produce for you. And not only that, you know, it's just good practice to give your best to everything that you do in life, to put your best foot forward. You see what I'm saying? So just apply that when you're talking about, you know, owning land and farming and living off the land. It's just giving it that respect. And a part of that respect and a part of that good stewardship is patience. You see what I'm saying? It's not rushing things. It's not trying to genetically modify things, or not trying to, you know, overfeed things and, you know, pump steroids, or, you know, artificially inseminate so they can have triplets and quadruplets. That's not proper respect and proper stewardship, in my opinion, because that's wear and tear on the body. That's just not respecting nature and letting nature be nature, how the Most High created it to be. But you're trying to interfere as man into something that the Most High has already instilled on how to reproduce. And the Most High, if it's his will, he'll give you triplets, you know, triplet goats or triplet sheep or twins or, you know, quadruplets. He'll make that increase for you. You see what I'm saying? If you give that proper respect and have that proper stewardship, he'll bless you abundantly. But a part of that stewardship and respecting, you know, just the process in general, is having patience with everything. You see what I'm saying? Because you can't rush a seed to grow, just like you can't rush an animal to grow. You can't force things. You see what I'm saying? And when you try to force things, you're disrespecting the process. You're disrespecting the animal. You're not being a good steward. So I say all that to say, man, you can't rush the process. That's lesson number 1, man. If you enjoyed this lesson, man, please just leave a comment below about what your favorite, point that I made, or your favorite, lesson within the lesson, rather. What was your favorite, or just some things that you've learned as well, some wisdom that you've gotten over the years as being a farmer, homesteader, gardener, or just being outdoors in general. But you can't rush the process. I tried to rush the process many times, and every time, man, I ended up just not closer than I was before. You see what I'm saying? Especially on the land and different things like that. I tried to do different things, man, and it just didn't work out because I was trying to do it in my own will and not in the timing of the Most High, and not in the timing of how it's supposed to be done properly, man. So I pray that blessed y'all, man. If you got any questions, man, drop them down below. This probably gonna be a 10-part series. Just depends, probably 7 to 10 parts. And then I'm gonna go into the butchery series as well, man. So y'all gonna get that one too. But if you like it, man, hit the thumbs up, man, if you haven't already. If you like the content, only if you like the content, like and subscribe, man, and hit the notification bell. So every time I drop a video, you'll be right there front and center, man. But I appreciate y'all, Set Apart Gardens family, man. I think that's it. I think that's all I got, man. So with that being said, like I always like to say, if you give somebody the power to feed you, you give them the power to start you. Peace.
Bombs over Baghdad really ain't that bad. Little wiretap, yes, yes. Little dodge in the IRS. Little haven from the tax man.